Who Not How versus the Real World. So, there's a book by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan called Who Not How. And the central premise of the book is that the better way to solve problems is not to ask, how can I solve this problem? Is to ask, who could solve this problem for me? And that really it applies to almost any problem you could have, is that there's a who out there that can help with that problem. And it is an interesting idea. And it's a concept that I, to some extent, attempted to implement, I think. So at various times in my business, which is a small business, I have attempted to bring in people to help me. Now, I've never actually paid, in my roofing days, I would have hired full-time people, but even that was a little spotty depending on the work level that we had. But in my marketing business, I have never hired someone full-time as a regular employee to help me. And but I have at times hired contractors help me with different pieces of it, and probably will do so again. In fact, I still have one contractor who helps me with some stuff. So, does this who, not how, apply to even someone with as small of a business as what mine currently is? And you certainly can make a case that even if the who doesn't mean hiring people, that it still does, right? So, who could be right customers. The who could be the right mentors or helpful resources, like people like teachers. So there's lots of different who's, and it doesn't just have to be hiring someone to help you. What's interesting though is, I think there's kind of two ditches here, right? So I think in the past there have been times when I've been like, well, if I just built the right team, and then everything else would fall into place. And it's kind of true, maybe, but it doesn't feel 100% true. Like, if, let's say, your product market fit isn't there. Like, okay, so let's say there's some constraint around the cash flow element of it, right? So if I don't have unlimited money to hire unlimited people, there may not always, like, hiring is maybe not always a solution, right? So sometimes I need to work on my own habits and productivity, maybe. It might be I need to change my offering to be more attractive and to attract better customers, things like that. So the who, not how, I think in general is an excellent concept. And I'm suspicious that I'm not adequately utilizing it. I think at some points I've probably sort of jumped ahead of myself in terms of trying to maybe hire before I was quite ready, or and I'm not sure if I made any grave mistakes there in hiring too soon, but I mean, there might have been times where I kind of looked at hiring someone as kind of an easy out to the problems that I was having, maybe, or the challenges, I should say, and as sort of a button to growth. Well, hiring is a button to increased expenses. And I think brilliant leaders, and maybe this is just you figure it out as you go along, right? Maybe this is not, you're not maybe born with this intuition, but I think some of the brilliant leaders understand where they're at in their company, and they understand who they need to hire, when the right time is to hire, and how aggressively to go for it. I think there are, so there have been companies, I think, so this is like an interesting example here. So I'm a who for my clients, okay? So they need marketing help, or they want good marketing. They contact me. I become their marketing person. Now, what's interesting is I think I'm underutilized by some clients, and well, I wouldn't say overly utilized, probably. I would say aggressively utilized by other clients. So there was a company that hired me to do like substantial amounts of work for them and really kind of just put me in charge of their growth essentially, even when they were really not making any money to speak of. And you know, our through our partnership, so to speak, you know, they were able to massively grow their company. And but they had to forego a lot of profitability for the short term. I mean, they, you know, it was they spent most of their money on me and their ads and the other things that they were doing, and not they weren't putting much in their pocket. So, um, but I kind of admire that because that business owner had the foresight, had the vision to be like, yeah, I'm gonna pay to get this service done. I'm going to pay for the expertise and experience and just the ability to learn and grow that Craig brings to our team. And even though that's it, you know, even though he's going to make a lot more, probably, like, I've probably made a lot more money from this company than they've made for themselves, most likely. Now, I don't know for sure where it's at there. That's most likely the case, you know, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But, the difference is they own the asset, I do not. And so over time, you know, their asset has the potential to make them quite a bit of money. So it's just interesting. And then I've got other customers who they're like, yeah, let me bring you on to do this one little service over here. And we're going to do this at a very like small level. And, you know, no, we're not too interested in having you do all this other stuff. You just kind of stick over here in your little corner and you do your thing. And we'll pay you a little bit of money, and everybody's going to be happy. And and that can work too. You know, there's in the sense that there's not like a right marketing budget necessarily, and there's not necessarily a right rate of growth or whatever. And it's just interesting how different business owners think about differently about the who that I am to their team. Whereas for some, I am essentially their, you know, complete marketing solution. For others, I'm like, I take care of a little piece of something, and maybe their overall marketing budget in general is very low, and maybe they depend on more grassroots hobnobbing with people or however they do it, word of mouth, etc. And, you know, I'm just not there's a lot more that I potentially could do for them than what I am. So, it is just really interesting to see how different people approach the who question and how different business owners approach how aggressively they grow. So I think for myself, I think that is one of the questions, which is, you know, how I prioritize growth and what I want for the future versus, you know, short-term payoff. Do I feel ready to hire somebody full-time? No, not really. Should I hire somebody full-time or find a partner or something like that? I mean, potentially, maybe not full-time, maybe just part-time, maybe, in a specific role for a specific type of task could be good. That I'm pretty open to. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's one of those things where there may not be a set answer for every situation, but something that, I guess business owners, and many of them with vastly more experience than me, would have experience on that whole idea of team building, finding the right who, and using that as, you know, for success. And I think it's interesting. Some people with really aggressive growth goals, I think, have quickly assembled teams. Like I don't know if there's a show called, was it called Billions? I forget what it was called now. Maybe I'm getting confused. Maybe it was Billionaire. Anyway, it was where they had some of these celebrities, including Grant Cardone, go and they filmed them, so people knew something was up, but they didn't reveal their true identity. They took on fake identities and had to try to get a business going that was worth like $1 million or $10 million or something in like 3 months. And what was so interesting about their approach was, like, you know, both from their experience, I think, as executive level people and owners and so forth, but also because of the time crunch, they knew that their only hope was like to get buy-in from team members, like right out of the get-go. And so, like, did they have any budget to pay people? I don't think so. Like, it was kind of crazy. Like, they just leaned hard on people. Like, they just made relationships, started relationships with people that they found, and I mean, they leaned hard on them, I would say, to get things done. Now, they cast a compelling vision. They got people to believe and to buy in. But I mean, their like sales numero uno pretty much was come work for me, right? Like that was what they had to sell aggressively, sell people on their vision, what they were doing, and hope that they would come on board and stay on board until until the thing ended and the people found out who they actually were. So pretty crazy stuff. And would I have the so let's say I went out and used that approach. Let's say I went out and aggressively sold a big vision to try to bring people on, maybe, dramatically underpaid, maybe just in a partnership with zero pay or whatever, to try to get this thing, like blow this thing up. What I don't know is what I don't know, right? So would I have the other skills needed to also pull it off besides just the initial recruiting? And would I have the skills to do the initial recruiting? I don't know. Pretty interesting stuff.